So this one's gonna be really, really short. Almost as short as the one where I was in a rainstorm. It was like, power's out, can't upload or record anything. um, I want to say about less than 2 hours after the last video came out, I actually finished my entire rough draft for my book. Um, it took a while before I actually titled it. Um, but here it is. All 229 pages of it. Um, that first little bit, like if you want to pause and read it, you're not going to get much of anything. Um, I was typing around and trying to get some ideas of what to do for this type of book. Because this isn't something that you could just kind of be like, hey, you tell good stories. Do you have any stories that you have typed out? No one's going to come looking for you. You have to go out looking for everything. I remember when I was a kid, I liked telling stories. Um, even if even if we read this little blurb here, um, I'll give you some background real quick. So it says, ever since I was young, and I enjoyed telling stories, seeing the faces on people, being captivated by what I was saying, always got my adrenaline running. Watching their faces contort as I go through my tale and take them on this wild journey with me, and give them the dramatic crescendos and the soulful portions of my story, and watching their intrigue do nothing but ebb and flow with the words that I weave for them was the best feeling in the world. There came a downside to my stories too, as people tended to keep thinking that I was fabricating them, and everything was made up. Or once I started, they were around me long enough, they would roll their eyes, knowing that they were going to be trapped, not me trapped, be trapped in my dictionary prison. Then there came the day that changed my life forever. I was 17. Now, what's funny is I wrote this with the intent, except for the line of the 17, but I wrote this line with the intent of having sort of a autobiography, if you will. But then when I typed, then there came the day that changed my life forever, I was 17. Um, I, I, it was in my head, just everything flipped. Um, let's see if I can find it. It might take forever because Google tends to take forever to load the rest of my shit. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Come on. So, right here, 2017, and this is a prologue. I had 37 pages that I started on this thing back in 2017. Yeah, see, it's not even going to load all those pages down there. So you could say that in a sense, this was the third time writing it and the first time completing it and actually having a better sense of what was going on. And I went back and I read little parts of that one from 2017, and I realized why I stopped. I was trying way too hard to world build. And so with this new one, I didn't world build. I character built. And as I character built, I world built with them. I guess you could say there was kind of like a D&D idea to where um, I I kind of have ideas in my head, and then I'll just shift those ideas as I go from player to player and bit to bit and scene to scene, or try to get a bridge scene to go from one spot to the next. So yeah, I did have another idea that I was brainstorming that I don't know if I'm going to work with, but I would like to. Um, if you pay attention to any of my comic battles rants, you can see that there's a lot of times where I'm just going, you guys need to start being more realistic when you come to your fandoms. And I decided to switch tactics, and instead of attacking people for their fandoms and trying to tell people how there's no way in hell Nightwing ever beats Spider-Man, it's not going to happen. You need to get over this. So instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the other half of that, and it's more of the half that I'm used to, and that's the outcast. Because I've started all my comic book stuff as an outcast, and it took a couple years going to this one spot and walking around and just kind of getting as I walk in and get to the point to where I'm going, all right, well, I still want to do stuff with here. I don't know anything about it. And internet was not necessarily the exact place that a lot of us thought to turn to back then. It was around, but you didn't really kind of focus on, I'll go on the internet. How do I get into comic books? You didn't really think that way. At least I didn't when I was younger. So instead of like walking into that shop and telling those guys who ran the shop and telling the guys that worked there, you guys are dicks, I went and just kind of gave up and kept going back in until someone decided to actually give a shit to take time to talk to me. And after that, the door was open. So I thought, what would be fun, and I don't have any of the funding for it, so I don't know how I'm going to pull it off, but have like a place where you can go ahead and talk. Like you hear all these horror stories about D&D and people that start getting, standoffish about it, and then you tell them like, well, what are you talking about? Like me that've been a DM for over 20 years, I'm going, how are you having like that bad of a situation? And it's mostly derived from females saying it all. And you hear horror stories, I'm going, son of really? And when I go back to seeing how it was when I was trying to get into comics, I'm going, same thing. You had gatekeepers back then, and the thing is that they're more loud now. Whereas before you kind of had to go to their world, but now their world shows up on your doorstep. And just to sit there and go, Batman's not the best fighter in the Bat family, right? That role belongs to Cassandra Cain. Period. He has said so. Things like that, to where you got people that have their favorites and they make their favorites their identity. Well, I'm trying to find ways to strip that away from identity and just have it be guys you like. I got a whole big thing about it that I don't really feel like going into right now. That, and if there's anything that might get me kicked off of YouTube, that could be it. But just to make it so you're going, if you like Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur, that's awesome. What about Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur do you enjoy? What makes you sit there and wait for them to put out another issue where she's prominent or they are prominent? Things like that. Your favorite characters are your favorite characters. And there should be no way that we just sit there and shit on everybody for them. Now, if there's a fun little rivalry, sure, like sports fandoms, unless you're live in Pennsylvania, in which case you're just an asshole. But to have a place where people can actually sit there and talk about it and things like that. And I'm trying to work on getting at least the digital part of it established. I'll as I get farther through it, I'll update you on it. I'll put it on here, and when we want to go and talk about it somewhere, that's fine. But I'm all about trying to take those cocky people that really sit there and shit on fans for having the favorites that they have just because they don't match favorites with the person that's talking. I love kicking the legs out from under them. No, knock it off. Because you're essentially destroying the medium for people that just want to enjoy the books, and not all those guys that go out there and I call the one hunters that try to get all number ones and go, this is going to be worse on someday. Bitch, no, it's not. Look at New Mutants number 1 versus, was it 78 and 94? Yeah, not the case. How about Detective Comics number 1 versus Detective Comics 27? Not the case. X-Men Reboot number 1 versus X-Men Reboot, I think it was 4 or 5. Like, that's not how this works, man. The number ones, way before the 90s. You get a couple of gems every now and again, but those are rare. Like in 2002, if you were picking up Walking Dead. I wasn't. So, yeah. Lots of rambling. None of it makes sense. But key point is, book's done.